Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. On today's series, I'm going to continue where I stopped in the last video concerning the data type. Now, I'm very sorry for how poor the audio sound of the previous video is. So, due to that fact, I'm going to go over this data type all over again, just a brief overview again. Now, a data type is more or less like the type of data a variable can store. That is, the type of data a variable can store. That is what a data type is. And I made mention of some primitive data types that we have, which are the string or the text. The numbers, which is integer, we have float. Integer are the whole number without a decimal point, something like 10, like this, like 20, like 30, and so on. While string are text. And I explained previously that how do you know what a text or a string is? That is when it is quoted like this, either a single quote or a double quote, but double quotes to be precise. Now, the float values, they are numbers with decimal points, like 10.0, 12.2, 3.4, and so on like that. While the Boolean are true or false value. I've explained what a string and integer value is, like this, and I explained how to get a particular type, to know what type a variable is. For instance, this B, if I run this, you can see something like string this, which is a string, something like that. Let me rerun this. Don't want us to get confused with that. Now, as you can see, str, which stands for string. So, which means this b variable is actually having a value of string. Now, if I check a, you can see a value of int, which is an integer. So, these are things I explained in the previous video. Now, to the two other parts of the data types that we need to explain is the float and the Boolean. So, like I said earlier, the float are numbers with decimal points. For instance, I can have something like 10.2, and if I check this again, you can see it was initially int, but now it is float. Same thing across the other different programming languages. If I check for the type of A, you can see in Python we use type, in JavaScript we use type of. Now, if I should cd lesson 3, then I run node data type.js, then you can see is type number. Now, like I said, a number is regarded to be an integer or a float in JavaScript. Now, same thing in Java, I can have something like 10.2 here. And note something, I already said it, that Java and C++, they are strictly typed before. Now you can see one thing is saying type mismatch cannot convert from double to integer. Now instead of float, in Python we see float. Now instead of the word float, Java use double. Now why this is showing an error is because integers are whole number. So the expected value to be assigned to this A is supposed to be whole number, but I'm assigning a decimal point value, which is either a float or a double. So for me to be able to assign a correct type to it, then I need to type double. You can see there is no longer showing any error again. Now this class is used to get the type of a particular variable. Now, if I run this, if I run that, you can see javalang.double. So which is showing the value of A is double. And if it is C++ as well, you can do something like, I want to make it unique and no, I want to make it the same across. Now, same thing, you can see this is a mismatch, something like that. You can actually do something like double over here too. Now, double this, you can see this is no longer showing an error. And if I should, let me see if this is going to run with this, or let me just run the command we are used to. Okay, no, don't let me use this. Let me use cd to lesson just to make it faster. Then inside the lesson, I'm going to do g++, the file name, which is data type .cpp-o, then data type. Now, if I run this, it's going to compile my project and build a data type.exe. Now, I can now do ;/data type.exe, exe. Then if I run that, you can see D. Now, this stands for double, something like that. Now, as you can see, this is how to get the type and how to assign a float value. Now, actually, you can perform an arithmetic using a float. Now, note something. For instance, I can have my B to be 2, and I have something like A multiplied by B, which means 10.2 multiplied by 2, something like that. Now, if I rerun this, you can see 20.4, which is basically correct. Same thing, if I do this, I have my A multiplied by B, and I run my node data type.js, then I should have my value. Same thing across for all other ones. You can try that and join back. Now, that is that about floats. Now, I'm going to move straight down to the Boolean part. Now, Boolean is actually returning a true or false value. That is either true or false. For instance, I can have something like C to be equals to A greater than B. Now, this is actually a comparison. That is, I'm comparing, is A greater than B? Now, basically, if we look at this, we can say this is actually, A is actually greater than B in this case. So, which means the output for this is going to be true. Because if I run this, you can see the value I'm getting back is true. Same thing if you have it to be less than B. Now, basically, A is actually not less than B, which means this is going to return a false value. Now, if we check for the type, what type is C? Something like that. And if we run this, you will see what is going to show us, which is type of what? Boolean. You can see this type is Boolean. Now, same thing, I can show this same thing over here. I can have my const C to be equals to A greater than B. And I can show this by doing C. And if I run this again using node data type dot js, then you can see true. Same thing if it is less than, oops, if it is less than and I run this, I have false. Now I can also check for the type, the type of C, and I run this again, then I'm going to get boolean. You can see something like that. Now same thing, I can check for the type in my Java. Let me do b to be something like 2. This is actually going to be a mismatch, so I need to convert this back to integer. Though we still do a type conversion where I will show you how you can convert different type. Now double C will be equals to, now let me finish this because this is actually going to show an error. Now double C is equal to A greater than B. In this case, now remember that when you are comparing, the final result of this comparison will either be true or false, which is a boolean. But the type I'm giving my C is a double, which is wrong. So I need to change this back to boolean. You can see this is no longer showing an error again. So I'm going to cut this and I'm going to print C only. And let's see what is going to happen with this. You can see this is true. Same thing. If it is less than, and I reprint this, you can see this time around it is false. Now, what if I want to get the type of C? Something like this, and I run it, then I'm getting Java lang.boolean. You can see like that. And also, I can do the same thing here. If I have my C, if I have my boolean, that is bool, C to be equals to A greater than B here, and I can just have to show the type first. If I should run this, let me go back to, if I do G++ data type dot cpp -0 -o, then data type, that is the file name. It's going to be G++ the file name with the extension -0 or -o, then the name you want your compiled file to be. You can change this to data type or to main. You can see something like main.exe. So I've done something like that before, which is main.exe. So I'm supposed to actually remove this not to confuse us. Now you can see main.exe is gone, so I can actually make this to be main.exe again instead of, or data type main, something like this. Now if I compile, you can see it's creating data type main.exe for me. Now for me to run this, I'm going to have data type main.exe, and if I should run this, I'm getting B, which stands for boolean. Now same thing, if you should see out C here, and I recompile and I rerun, then you can see I'm getting 0. Now we all know that while dealing with truth table, we all know our true is what? Is 0, which also means our true is 1, which is on, while our false is what? Is 0. Now, yes. Now, this is saying 10.2 is greater than 20, which is false. That is the reason why you are seeing 0 there. Now, what if I use less than? Then I should get something like 1 or something. So let me try again. Recompile, rerun, then you can see 1, which stands for true, something like that. So I believe we all get it to this very point. So that is what a Boolean value is. And most time you can have it to be something like maybe G to be equals to true, which I know you may not be able to use this in a, what's it called? In Python directly like this. So instead of using true, it's going to be a capital T. I'm not supposed to close it, something like this. And if it is JavaScript, this one can actually accept it to be in lowercase, which is const d to be equals to true, something like this. And you can try that for other languages as well. Now, moving to the part of conversion, type conversion. Now, remember that I said it before. I've explained what concatenation is before. That is adding two strings together, something like that. Now, let me make this my a value to be 10, ordinary 10. Now, it is possible to perform an arithmetic of a plus b here, but if I should run this is actually going to give me an error because Python cannot add an integer to a string. Remember, this 10 is actually an integer, while b is a string because it is quoted. We all know that. Now, when you are combining them together like that, this is actually going to give you an error. So what we need to do is something like assigning another b to be equals to int b plus a. Now, instead of showing, or let me do c for, no, let me make it b, then I'm going to explain that. Then if you want to use another variable name, then we can use it. Now, if you print this out and I run, then this is actually going to give me 30. Now, remember, this is 20, string, a word 20, and this is 10. Now, what this is supposed to give us is 2010. That is 2010. That is what this is supposed to give us with this calculation. I'm going to show you that in JavaScript. But Python automatically is not going to add up, is not going to concatenate your string and your integers value for you at the same time. So the best practice in Python is to typecast any of your values to the type you want before you continue. Now, what this thing means is that I'm grabbing the value of this b, I'm converting it to an integer and adding it to a, and assigning it back to b. So the initial value of, if I should ask the initial value of b, that is string literal 20, that is the initial value. Now, if I should ask you what is the final value of b, which is, after converting, these are turned to 20 plus 10, that is 30. So the final value of b is 30. That's the reason why we are getting 30 in the console here. Now, instead of, not to confuse us, we can make it to be c equals to type conversion of your b plus a. Now, in our final results here, I'm going to print c. If I run this, I'm still going to get the same 30. Now, let's quickly move down to the JavaScript. Now, remember, like I said, I'm going to show us something that is different from Python here. Now, same thing, I'm going to do b. This is actually going to give us an error, but I'm going to show you first. I'm going to do b to be equals to pass int b plus a, something like this. Now, if I should print out my b, and I do my node data type.js and I run this, this is going to give me an error. Why? Now, a constant value or constant variable cannot be reassigned another value again. Once you use const, it means the value you assign to that variable will remain the same without overriding it again. Now what this thing means is that, you remember I said the initial value of b was 20, then while I was using b here the other time, I'm saying the new value of b will now be equals to 30. But in this case, when you are using const, you can't reassign another value to the variable you have already assigned the value to before. So the way out is to change it to let. Now if I use let and I rerun, you can see I'm having 30 in the console. That is, I'm converting a string to an integer. And it is possible over here. Let me try this to be float. Now remember I said a float is with decimal points. Now if I should run this, it's giving me 30.0. Why? Because this 20, when it's converted, it is going to be 20.0 because it is a float. I believe you understand that. Now same thing if I do it here and I do pass float. Instead of returning 30 back to me, though that is going to be the same thing it's going to return, because JavaScript consider 20 to be equals to 20.0, something like this. Now if I should rerun my this again, you can see instead of it showing me 30.0, it's showing me ordinary 30, which means it believes that 20.0 is the same thing as 20, or 30.0 is the same thing as 30, something like that. Now, and let's move down to the Java part. I'm going to remove this. Now, on the Java side, let me make this integer, which is actually not an integer, to be 20.0, and this to be 10. Now, you can see two of them are now complaining now. The first one is 10, while the second one is 20 string 20. Now, the first one, instead of double type, it's supposed to be what? Integer. Why this second one supposed to be a string? Something like this. You can see both the error is gone. The reason why we are getting this is because C is no longer on this something again. Now, for me to be able to change this, then I'm going to have my C. Let me have my integer C to be equals to integer dot pass int b, then plus a. Now if I should print out C, now this is going to give me the same 30 we are getting. You can see. Now same way, if I should change this to float like I did for others, but this is going to prompt an error because the method attached to it is integer. So I need to change this one to back to float. Now this is going to give us an error again because remember the variable C data type is what? Integer. But the final answer is going to be what? Float. So which means we need to change this one to float. You can see we no longer have any error there again. Now you can see instead of 30 initial, is giving me 30.0. I believe you all understand this. Now same thing for the C++ part. I'm going to remove this and I'm going to change this to int. I'm going to convert this to a string and I'm going to change this to string. Something like that. Then for my value C, the first one is int C to be equals to. Now to convert from a string to a string to an integer in C++, then you will use stored, store, or how do we pronounce this? So then I'm going to pass the value I want to convert inside, then remember plus a. Now if we see out this, let me cd to my directory again, cd lesson 3, and from lesson 3 I do the G++. Now I do my period / data type .exe and I run this program. Now you can see it's giving me 30. Now same thing if you want to convert from this string back to a floating value. Now this stoi or stoi, what it means is that string to integer. Now if you want to convert it to a float, then it's going to be string to float, something like this. Now if I should run this, something is going to happen. I'm going to get the same 30 because by the time this is going to give me a floating value, I'm already typing my C to be int. So which means it's going to neglect, even if it is going to append .0 to it, it's going to neglect it because I've already set it to be integer. So instead of this, I can just make this to be double, just to be able to see what the final answer is going to look like. Then I'm going to recompile and rerun my program. Now, surprisingly, you could see that same thing with JavaScript. C++ also consider 20 to be equals to 20.0. Now, this will be the end of data types, and I believe we all gain one or two things. Now if you are just joining this channel for the first time, we already have some previous video on programming concepts where we are looking at 4 different programming languages, which are the Python, the JavaScript, the Java, and the C++. So if you are just joining this channel, kindly subscribe to this channel, give these videos a like and share it to your loved ones. And don't forget to click on the bell icon to also receive notification each time I update on this course. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.